Hello everyone, welcome. My name is Esther Ilmoren, a passionate software developer and a math teacher. Have you ever wondered why some pupils fail mathematics? Some pupils do not want to hear about that subject. They are simply not interested. Do you wonder why? Let's jump in right away. The first reason why some pupils fail mathematics is a lack of the foundational knowledge. Maths is one subject that requires a solid foundation. Once the foundation is solidly laid, half of the problems are solved. Those basic mathematical principles must be well thought and understood by the pupils for them to do well in the subject. This is because every sum in maths will definitely land at those basic principles. One is either adding or subtracting or dividing or multiplying, finding the square roots, and all of that. So a child who has not understood those basic and foundational principles will definitely struggle in the subject. Guess what? The moment a child has learned how to count from 1 to 10, 20, 100, the next thing is addition and subtraction. All right, and later on they go on to learn multiplication and division. All right, you talk about factors, talk about multiples, fractions, and all of that. Once a child does not thoroughly understand these basic topics, basic principles, that child will struggle. Now, the real issue is that some teachers who teach in these classes, I'm talking about nursery 1, nursery 2, transition primary 1, some of the times are not able to explain these basic concepts very well to the pupils. Now, this is because some of them may not be mathematically inclined, all right? They are classroom teachers and somehow they have to teach all the subjects, all right? It's rare to find anyone bringing a maths teacher, an expert at that, time. So because these teachers are not mathematically inclined, they are not able to drive home the points. They are not able to get these kids to thoroughly understand these basic principles. And once the child gets to primary 2 and has not understood these principles very well, that's where the problem happens. In primary 3, by the time a math teacher comes on board and the child has to learn the advanced principles and then learns in addition, and the child doesn't know how to add, or learns in subtraction, or learns in division, that becomes a problem. So this is very important. In fact, it is the most important factor that is responsible for the failures that most pupils experience in maths. The second is poor study habits. If a pupil or student must do well in maths, that child must be willing to invest the time to practice constantly, if it is possible, every day. Just like every other skill, the more a child practices, all right, those his or her sums, practices, that is how well the child will understand and do well in the subject. So a child who is not willing to invest the time to study will definitely struggle in the subject. The next reason is lack of interest or motivation. Some pupils are simply not interested and are not motivated to do their sums. All right, what leads to this? One major factor that leads to this is what happened at that early stage of that child's life. Who taught that subject? How was it taught? Was it interesting? Was it boring? What was the teacher's attitude? From the first day the child learns how to add numbers, what was the child's experience? This has a lot to do with how much interest the child will have in that subject. All right. So a child who found the subject interesting because of the teacher's manner of approach, or because the teacher was able to relate the subject to real life situations, will find it more interesting than someone who couldn't just picture or understand what the teacher was saying. So, what happens in those early years matters a lot. The next is teacher quality. This is one reason that cannot be overlooked. Who teaches a particular subject at a particular time has a lot of impact, especially in the life of a child. All right. So when the right person is teaching mathematics, even when the person may not be an expert, but has the right attitude, the chances of having pupils do well in that subject is very high. And the reverse happens when you have someone that is not motivated and maybe does not like the subject himself or herself. Yes, a lot of teachers that have to teach kids at that point struggle with the subject too because they were not properly taught. So we have teachers who did not understand these concepts themselves, having to teach other people. That's where the real problem is. All right. The next reason why pupils fail maths is the attitude they display towards the subject. A child who believes that he or she cannot do well in the subject will struggle. This boils down to what happened in the early years still, all right? Or what comments or what the child has been exposed to. A child that has learned from others that math is difficult, all right? Or didn't have a good experience in the early classes will have a negative attitude, which will in turn affect the performance of that child in that subject. The next reason why some pupils struggle with the subject is anxiety. All right, test anxiety. So when a child becomes so anxious or scared at the mention of tests, and the child has to write maths, it will be such a terrible combination because math requires that one must be intact. It requires a level of confidence to be able to understand the questions and offer the right answer. So, a child who is scared or who is anxious when test or examination is mentioned will definitely struggle with the subject. So, what are the solutions? How can all of this be solved? Find out in a free webinar taking place this Friday by 7 p.m. Click on the link below this video to join in. Click on this link immediately to secure your slots. Bye.